Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started.
Today, we're plunging into a topic that is absolutely fundamental for anyone operating, designing, or even just utterly fascinated by drones. We're talking about the incredible power sources that make them fly and the ingenious, often invisible layers of defense that ensure they stay safe up there. It's a truly complex interplay of cutting-edge chemistry, precise physics, and, evolving regulation. But our mission today is to demystify it all for you.
Indeed. We've meticulously compiled a truly fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive. We're talking comprehensive engineering guides on battery safety, detailed briefings on system redundancy principles, and the very latest regulatory updates from Transport Canada. Our goal for you today is to distill the most vital insights from all these materials. We want to help you understand not just what specific safety protocols to follow, but crucially why each one matters, providing you with truly practical knowledge for both safe operation and honestly a much deeper appreciation of drone technology.
Think of this as your essential shortcut to becoming genuinely well-informed about something that, in the wrong hands, or with just a simple oversight, could quite literally impact lives and property. We're going to explore everything from the fiery explosive potential contained within a single lithium cell to the intricate layered defenses designed to keep multi-million-dollar industrial drones safely aloft over critical infrastructure. Whether you're diligently prepping for a professional certification exam, actively considering a career in advanced drone operations, or simply just insanely curious about what makes these machines tick, we promise some serious aha moments and plenty of surprising facts that might just change the way you look at a drone. Okay, let's truly unpack this. So let's really start at the absolute beginning with the fundamental building blocks of drone power, the batteries themselves. When we talk about what fuels these incredible machines, three main chemistries almost always come up. Can you really break down their core differences for us?
Absolutely. What's truly fascinating here is that each chemistry possesses a distinct personality, if you will. Each has its own unique set of advantages and, importantly, inherent risks. These characteristics directly dictate how we should handle them, charge them, store them, and even what types of drones they're best suited for. First up, and by far the most common type in modern high-performance drones, are LiPo, or lithium polymer batteries. Across the literature, they're often characterized as, a powerful but temperamental racehorse, or sometimes even a Formula One race car.
Okay, high performance then.
Exactly. Their defining features are their incredibly lightweight coupled with an exceptionally high energy density. What that means for you, the operator, is maximum flight time for their size. Simple as that. But perhaps even more critical for drone dynamics, they boast very high discharge rates. This is what allows for those, breathtakingly powerful bursts of acceleration and agile dynamic maneuvers. Absolutely crucial for things like FPV drone racing or rapid cinematic shots.
So it sounds like pure, unadulterated performance. But like you said, temperamental. Every racehorse has its demanding side, right?
Right.
What's the real catch with a LiPo beyond just raw power?
You've hit on the core challenge, their inherent volatility. The consensus among experts is stark, and you hear this phrase a lot. When a LiPo goes, it brings its own oxygen.
Wow, okay. Brings its own oxygen.
Yeah, and that's a profoundly important distinction because it means a LiPo fire isn't just sustained by the air around it, it generates its own oxidizer internally. This makes them incredibly difficult, almost impossible to extinguish with conventional methods like, say, water or CO2 alone. They are exquisitely sensitive to a range of environmental and handling factors: punctures, overcharging, deep discharging, exposure to extreme temperatures, any form of mechanical damage. Any one of these can initiate a cascading thermal runaway, leading to a significant and often, spectacular fire risk. This inherent danger is precisely why they demand such rigorous, specific charging and handling procedures, almost like a precise ritual you have to follow every time. For anyone looking to truly understand these powerhouses, especially if you're prepping for an exam or considering professional operations, it's vital to grasp a couple of key technical details for LiPo batteries. First, let's talk about the C rating. This isn't just some arbitrary number. It's a critical measure of how quickly a battery can safely discharge its stored energy. And also, though less commonly discussed in C ratings themselves, how quickly it can safely accept a charge relative to its overall capacity.
Okay.
So if you have a 5,000 milliamp battery with a 1C charge rate, that means it can safely be charged at 5,000 millilay, which is 5 amps. A higher discharge C rating means more instantaneous power can be delivered to the motors, which is fantastic for performance, for responsiveness. But it's a delicate balance. Pushing batteries to their highest C ratings too frequently, or using a charger that exceeds a battery's rated charge C, can sometimes shorten the battery's overall cycle life and accelerate its degradation.
And then there's the voltage.
Yeah.
I've always heard that you need to be almost obsessively precise with voltage readings when it comes to LiPos. Is that precision truly as critical as it sounds?
Oh, absolutely. The voltage of a LiPo cell is paramount. It's the direct indicator of its state of charge and, more importantly, its health. For a typical LiPo cell, the safe operating range is very narrow and critical. You generally want to avoid discharging a cell below approximately 3.5 volts.
3.5.
And at full charge, it should sit right around 4.2 volts per cell. The research we've reviewed is incredibly clear. Allowing a cell to deep discharge below that 3.5 V per cell minimum causes immediate and permanent damage to its internal chemistry. Think of a battery like a tiny, intricate sponge, but one made of highly reactive chemical layers.
Okay.
When you squeeze too much water out, or in this case, too much voltage, you physically damage its delicate internal structure. This isn't just about reducing its capacity, it's about fundamentally compromising its stability. You can create unstable metallic deposits inside, a process known as lithium plating.
Right.
And even grow microscopic tree-like structures called dendrites. These dendrites are sharp enough to pierce the delicate internal layers, causing a dangerous internal short circuit. So even if the battery appears to take a charge later, you've introduced tiny ticking landmines inside. This sets the stage for a potentially catastrophic thermal runaway down the line, perhaps during a seemingly normal flight or charge cycle weeks later, often when you least expect it. That's why monitoring individual cell voltage, not just the overall battery pack percentage, becomes so critically important for safety and longevity.
Wow, that really paints a vivid picture of the internal dangers. So LiPo is definitely the high-performance, high-maintenance option. What about the other chemistries we often hear about? For operators who might prioritize durability or a slightly less temperamental option, what else is out there?
That's an excellent point. Next, we have Li-ion, or lithium-ion cylindrical batteries. These can be thought of as the reliable workhorse of the battery world. They're renowned for their generally higher energy density and, crucially, a much longer cycle life compared to LiPos. That means they can withstand more charge and discharge cycles before degrading.
Okay, more durable then.
Generally, yes. And they are considered less volatile and inherently safer than LiPos due to their more robust construction and different internal chemistry, which is a significant advantage in many applications.
That certainly sounds appealing from a safety and longevity perspective.
Yeah.
What would be the main trade-off or downside for these workhorses?
Their primary disadvantage is that they're typically heavier and bulkier than LiPos for a comparable energy capacity. This characteristic makes them less ideal for smaller, highly agile drones, where every gram of weight has a direct impact on performance and flight time. However, precisely because of their higher energy density and improved safety profile, we're seeing them increasingly adopted in larger, more endurance-focused platforms, where that slightly increased weight is a worthwhile trade-off for extended flight times and enhanced reliability in, say, industrial or surveillance applications. Finally, we come to LiPo4, or lithium iron phosphate batteries. These represent a newer, safer generation of lithium battery technology. Our sources often refer to them as the emerging safe tech. And to use an analogy, you might think of them as like an old Jeep, incredibly rugged, inherently safe, but perhaps a bit less nimble in terms of pure performance.
Okay. The Jeep analogy works.
Their standout advantage is their extreme safety. They are remarkably stable and boast an exceptionally long cycle life, often outperforming even Li-ion batteries in terms of raw durability and resistance to thermal events.
So LiPo4 is the safest option then. What's the main compromise for that enhanced safety and longevity?
The trade-off for that unparalleled safety and extended longevity is a lower energy density compared to both LiPo and traditional Li-ion chemistries. What that translates to practically is that for the same physical size and weight, you'll generally get shorter flight times. However, their excellent safety record and inherent stability make them an increasingly popular choice in larger uncrewed aircraft systems, UAS platforms. particularly where absolute safety, long-term reliability, and longevity are the paramount concerns, often outweighing the need for maximum performance or extreme agility. Think critical infrastructure inspection or long-duration environmental monitoring roles.
So for us, the drone operators, or even just the curious observers, what does understanding these distinct battery personalities truly mean in terms of practical application? It seems like it's far more than just, a preference.
This really raises an important question, doesn't it? Understanding these nuanced differences isn't just academic, it's absolutely crucial. It directly impacts your ability to choose the right battery chemistry for the specific mission you're undertaking, ensuring optimal performance without compromising safety. It dictates the precise handling requirements, from charging protocols to storage conditions that you must adhere to. And most importantly, it empowers you to anticipate and proactively mitigate risks. This fundamental knowledge directly influences everything from your pre-flight checks and in-flight decision-making to your emergency response planning, ensuring you're not just flying, but operating with a deep, informed respect for the power source you're carrying.
It's clear that simply plugging them in isn't remotely enough. Let's really dive into the nitty-gritty of keeping these power sources not just alive, but happy and safe throughout their entire life cycle, starting with arguably the most critical phase, charging.
Indeed. It's an undisputed fact that the vast majority of battery-related incidents, particularly thermal runaway events, occur during the charging phase. The literature we've reviewed outlines some truly critical commandments for charging. The first, and arguably the most crucial principle, is unequivocal. Thou shalt never leave a LiPo charging unattended.
That seems like rule number one, underlined.
Absolutely. It's not just a suggestion, it's a golden rule. Unattended charging is consistently cited as the #1 cause of LiPo fires. Imagine leaving a barbecue grill running unattended in your living room. It's an equivalent level of negligence, just asking for a serious, potentially catastrophic problem. Beyond constant supervision, you absolutely must use manufacturer-recommended chargers. Generic, cheap aftermarket chargers often cut corners and can bypass crucial safety limits, turning them into a significant hazard.
Right, you don't want to skimp there.
Definitely not. These chargers might not accurately balance cells or might push too much current, leading to accelerated degradation or immediate thermal events. And you must, without exception, charge in a safe environment. This means on a non-flammable surface, like concrete, ceramic tile, or a dedicated charging pad, well away from any combustible materials like curtains, paper, or carpet. Professionals, as we learn, routinely use a LiPo fireproof bag or a ceramic charging box.
Those bags and boxes, are they really effective?
They are essential containment devices. They aren't just accessories. They are designed to at least slow down or, ideally, fully contain a potential thermal runaway event, providing a critical layer of protection for your property and personnel.
Okay. Now, the temperature of the battery itself during charging, that sounds like it could be a particularly insidious trap for operators. How do we manage that?
It's extremely tricky and a critical point that, surprisingly, trips up many experienced operators. Temperature management during charging is paramount. First, and this is non-negotiable, never attempt to charge a cold battery, especially one that's below, say, 5 degrees Celsius.
5 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Doing so risks a dangerous phenomenon known as lithium plating. This is where, instead of the lithium ions smoothly integrating into the anode, metallic lithium begins to deposit on its surface. This physical deposition can lead to internal short circuits and, over time, the formation of those microscopic, sharp, tree-like structures we mentioned earlier called dendrites.
Right, the dendrites.
These can grow large enough to puncture the delicate internal separators, leading to a catastrophic internal short. This significantly increases the future fire risk, even if the battery appears to function normally immediately after being improperly charged. Therefore, batteries must be allowed to warm up to room temperature, ideally between 20–25 degrees C, before you even connect them to the charger.
And the reverse. What about charging when they're hot right after a flight?
Equally important, never charge a hot battery. After a flight, batteries generate significant heat due to the high discharge rates. They absolutely must be given ample time to cool down to room temperature, ideally below 45 degrees C, before recharging. 45 C.
Got it. Attempting to charge a hot battery dramatically accelerates its chemical wear and significantly increases the fire risk as the elevated internal temperature primes it for thermal runaway. And let's not forget the danger of indirect heat. Our sources specifically highlight the risks of charging in direct sunlight or with enclosed, unventilated vehicles like parked cars or enclosed cargo holds.
Oh yeah, I could see that being a problem.
Heat can rapidly build up in these confined spaces, creating a dangerous microclimate that causes the battery to overheat and, once again, pose a severe fire risk. You need good air circulation and shade, always.
And what about how fast you push power into them? Does the rate of charge truly make a difference in safety and longevity?
It absolutely does. The C rating and precise current levels during charging are vital for both the battery's health and your safety. While some manufacturers advertise higher charge rates, our comprehensive review of best practices strongly recommends adhering to the manufacturer's specified C rating for charging, which is often 1C, for optimal longevity and safety.
So 1C is kind of the standard safe bet.
Right. Generally, yes. For example, for a 5,000 mAh pack, a 1C charge rate means feeding at 5 amps. Consistently overcharging or applying too high a current for the battery's design is a direct accelerated path to degradation, increased internal resistance, and a significantly heightened fire risk. It's like force-feeding a delicate organism. It might take it, but it will suffer in the long run and potentially erupt. Then there's cell balancing, which is an absolute lifesaver. Our compiled research is emphatic. Cell imbalance can cause even a good battery pack to fail catastrophically.
Okay, explain that. Why is balancing so crucial?
Well, within a multi-cell pack, say a 6S, 6O LiPo cell balancing ensures that individual cells maintain approximately equal voltage, typically within a minuscule 0.01–0.03 V of each other after a full charge cycle.
Any differences?
Exactly. But crucial, because if one cell is weaker or charges faster than the others, it can become dangerously overcharged while the charger is still trying to top off the remaining cells. Or during discharge, it might deplete faster, risking deep discharge and permanent damage to that single cell, leading to its failure and, subsequently, the entire pack's demise.
Ah, I see. So one bad apple spoils the bunch, essentially.
Precisely. So always make sure your charger is actively balancing, and as a professional, always check individual cell voltages, not just the overall pack's state of charge, to spot potential issues early. And before you even think about plugging that battery in, perform a thorough pre-charge inspection. Visually inspect every battery for any signs of swelling or puffiness, punctures, cuts to the shrink wrap, loose connectors, frayed wires, or burn marks. The rule is crystal clear, underlined in bold in every safety guide. Do not charge damaged or swollen batteries.
Even minor swelling.
Even minor swelling. It indicates that internal gases have built up, a precursor to thermal runaway, and means the battery is immediately unairworthy and poses an extremely high fire risk. Remember that crucial mnemonic, because it could save your assets and maybe even your life. A puffy pack is a pilot's trap. Retire it fast or risk the blast.
Puffy pack is a pilot's trap.
Got it. So once they're fully charged and ready for action, how do we keep them healthy and safe when they're not actively flying? Is it as simple as just putting them on a shelf?
Not at all. That's where proper storage comes in, and it's far less intuitive than you might think. This brings us to what we call the Goldilocks principle for storage. The most critical rule for long-term storage, and by long-term we mean anything over 24 to 48 hours, is to store LiPo batteries at approximately 50–60% state of charge.
50 to 60%. Why that very specific range? Why not full or completely empty, which seems like it would be safer? That's an excellent question, and it speaks to the delicate chemical balance inside these batteries. Storing them fully charged for extended periods significantly accelerates their degradation due to sustained chemical stress. It keeps the battery in a state of maximum internal tension, effectively putting unnecessary strain on its internal chemistry, and crucially, it dramatically increases the inherent fire risk. As one of our reference documents starkly puts it, full charge is maximum internal stress.
Okay, so full is bad for long-term.
Right. On the other hand, storing them fully empty is equally dangerous, as it risks the voltage dropping below their minimum threshold, leading to irreversible damage to the cells, essentially rendering the battery dead and useless, and potentially hazardous if later attempts are made to revive it. So that 50–60% so is just right. It's the sweet spot that maximizes the battery's lifespan by minimizing chemical stress, while also preventing the perils of deep discharge or being stored in a high-energy, high-risk state.
The Goldilocks state. Makes sense. And where should we store them?
Beyond the state of charge, the environment where you store your batteries is equally important. Always store your batteries in fireproof containers. This means dedicated LiPo safe bags, robust metal boxes with secure lids, or certified fire-rated cabinets. These containers should then be placed in a cool, dry place, ideally maintaining a stable temperature between 15-23 degrees C, so around 60-75 degrees Fahrenheit. Crucially, keep them well away from direct sunlight, which can cause rapid temperature fluctuations, and of course, away from any flammable materials like wood, paper, or textiles. It's also worth noting that many modern smart batteries found in professional drones integrate a sophisticated battery management system, or BMS.
Ah, smart ones.
Yes, and a truly valuable feature of these systems is their ability to automatically discharge the battery to that safe storage level if it's left idle for a certain period. This is an incredible boon for risk mitigation and helps automate compliance with the Goldilocks rule, reducing operator oversight.
That's handy.
Very. And for professional operators managing a fleet, cultivating a battery day habit is highly recommended. This involves establishing a regular routine, perhaps every 1 to 2 weeks, to physically inspect all your batteries, run balanced charge cycles on any that need it, meticulously check for any signs of swelling, physical wear, or corrosion.
Right.
Update your battery usage logs and adjust their storage charge as needed. This proactive, almost ritualistic maintenance mentality is absolutely crucial for both safety and maximizing your investment in these vital components.
Okay, we've got charging and storage covered, but what about when these batteries are actually in the drone, flying through the air? How do dynamic factors like temperature and careful monitoring play into safe and predictable flight?
In-flight management is arguably where your real-time piloting skill meets your battery knowledge, especially regarding temperature and truly understanding how batteries behave under dynamic load. The first and most critical point here is that professional pilots monitor voltage, not just percentage.
Voltage, not percentage. Why is that?
Because LiPo batteries do not discharge linearly, they have a relatively flat voltage plateau for much of their usable capacity, followed by a very sharp, precipitous drop-off at the end.
Oh, okay.
Your drone's percentage readout can lag significantly, which can be incredibly misleading. A rapid voltage sag or a sudden plummeting voltage is a critical, immediate indicator of trouble, even if the percentage on your screen still looks deceptively okay. This real-time voltage monitoring allows for proactive, life-saving decisions. You also need to maintain a landing buffer, which means actively avoiding the danger zone of critically low voltage. Always aim to land with a significant reserve, ideally 20-25% state of charge remaining, or maintaining a specific safe voltage level per cell.
20 to 25% buffer.
Minimum. The compiled data consistently shows that below 10-15% SO, or approximately 3.7-3.8 V per cell under load, the voltage can collapse incredibly rapidly, risking a sudden brownout or complete loss of control. Never, ever run LiPo batteries down to 0%. That's not just dangerous, it's destructive to the battery. This substantial landing buffer is absolutely crucial for handling unexpected winds that might extend your return path, executing unforeseen emergency maneuvers, or ensuring a safe and controlled return to home if necessary.
And flying in extreme temperatures, cold especially, sounds like a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
How much does that truly impact battery performance in the air?
It's a completely different ballgame, and it demands significant operational adjustments. Let's talk about cold weather flying. Cold temperatures, particularly anything around 0 degrees C, 32 degrees air or below, significantly reduce a LiPo battery's effective capacity. Think of the internal chemistry becoming sluggish, almost like cold molasses. This makes the battery far more prone to severe voltage sag under load, which can lead to mid-flight power loss, unpredictable performance, or an early fail-safe activation, forcing an unplanned landing. Your actual flight times will be noticeably reduced, perhaps by 20-30% or more compared to warmer conditions.
Wow. That much.
Easily. The mitigation here is crucial. You must pre-warm batteries to around 20 degrees C, 68 degrees F before launch using specialized warming jackets, insulated cases, or heat packs. During flight, you must monitor voltage much more closely than usual, consider insulation wraps for the battery compartment if possible, and plan for significantly shorter flight legs, landing much earlier than you would in warmer conditions. Ignoring this is akin to driving a car in sub-zero temperatures without antifreeze. You're asking for a breakdown.
Okay, pre-warming is key for cold weather. What about hot weather?
Conversely, hot weather flying also presents its own unique set of risks. High ambient temperatures accelerate the battery's internal chemical degradation, shortening its overall lifespan, and critically, increasing the inherent fire risk. You need to monitor battery temperatures closely during hot operations and allow for significantly longer cool-down periods between flights. It's also worth noting that at higher altitudes, where air density is lower, the efficiency of passive cooling mechanisms for the drone's components, including batteries, can be reduced.
Less air for cooling.
Exactly, further exacerbating the risk of overheating during prolonged flight.
So batteries have a lifespan, just like anything else. How do you know when a battery is truly past its prime, and what's the responsible thing to do with it once it is?
Proactive retirement is a hallmark of a truly professional and safe operator. This isn't just about ensuring peak performance, it's fundamentally about risk mitigation and safety. The sources outline several absolutely clear signs of an unairworthy battery. The absolute most critical, non-negotiable sign is swelling or puffiness.
The puffy pack again.
Yes, even minor swelling indicates that internal gases have built up, a direct precursor to thermal runaway, and it means the battery is immediately unairworthy and poses an extremely high fire risk. This isn't a maybe it'll be fine situation, it's an immediate call to action. Remember that puffy pack? Mnemonic, it's not just a little swollen, it's an urgent call to retire it. Other critical indicators include excessive voltage sag under load. If your battery's voltage drops significantly or rapidly during a typical flight, much more than it used to, it's a clear sign of increased internal resistance due to aging. This means a sudden mid-flight power loss is very possible, potentially leading to an uncontrolled descent. Reduced capacity is another obvious sign. If a battery no longer holds its original charge, perhaps only charging to 80% or less of its initial capacity, its useful life is ending. High internal resistance, IR, which can be measured with specialized tools, also increases with age and degradation, leading to more heat generation during use and further efficiency loss. Of course, any visible physical damage like punctures, tears in the shrink wrap, loose connectors, or visible deformation of the pack immediately renders it unsafe. And finally, excessive heat generation during charging or even during a normal flight is a major red flag.
Okay, so lots of warning signs to look for. What about just age, or how many times you've used it?
Good point. Consider age and cycle life. Most LiPo packs are typically good for only around 150 to 200 cycles before their performance and safety profile start to significantly degrade.
150 to 200 cycles. That's not a huge number.
It's really not, especially for professional use. Beyond this point, their internal resistance inevitably increases, generating more heat and increasing the risk of failure. Proactive replacement based on meticulous cycle tracking is therefore an essential component of a professional maintenance schedule.
And what's the immediate action if you spot any of these red flags? So for that puffiness, is there a safe way to dispose of them?
If a battery shows any of these signs, especially swelling, it must be immediately removed from service. You need to quarantine it in a non-flammable container, perhaps a sand bucket or a designated fireproof box, and arrange for safe disposal. This is crucial. You must never throw LiPo batteries in regular trash.
Never in the bin. Why not?
They're classified as hazardous waste and can still ignite even when dead. They pose a risk to sanitation workers and the environment. They must be disposed of through authorized e-waste facilities or specialized hazardous waste collection centers. Sometimes these facilities require the battery to be fully discharged, if it's safe to do so, before acceptance. This is a non-negotiable safety step.
We've touched on thermal runaway a few times already, and it sounds like a serious, even terrifying event. What exactly is happening inside the battery when this begins, and what should someone immediately do if they even suspect it's starting?
It is serious, and the speed at which it can escalate is what makes it so terrifying. Thermal runaway is a self-reinforcing process where an initial localized overheating event within a battery cell leads to an uncontrolled exponential increase in temperature. This creates a chain reaction, causing other cells in the pack to fail, potentially resulting in fire or even explosion. It's not always instantaneous. It often progresses through distinct stages, which, if recognized, can provide you with a small, precious window to act.
Stages. Okay, what are they?
Our comprehensive review of incident reports and safety guides consistently identifies 3 distinct stages of thermal runaway. Stage 1 is cell swelling. This is often the first visible sign where internal gas is gored up, causing the battery casing to visibly expand or puff up. It's a subtle but critical visual warning. If you ignore a puffy pack, you're deliberately ignoring the first alarm.
Right, the puffy pack again. Stage 1.
Stage 2 is gas venting. At this point, the internal pressure becomes too great, and the battery releases gases, often accompanied by visible smoke, which can range from wisps to dense plumes, and a distinctive, often acrid, chemical odor.
Smoke and smell. That sounds like a very clear warning.
It is. This is an unmistakable warning that escalation to full ignition is imminent. This is your last chance for proactive containment. And stage 3 is ignition fire. This is the final, most dangerous stage where the battery ignites. As we discussed, LiPo fires produce their own oxygen through the decomposition of their internal chemicals.
Right, they feed themselves.
Exactly, meaning they don't need ambient air to burn. They can reach astonishingly high temperatures, often over 1,000 degrees C, 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, making them incredibly difficult to extinguish with conventional methods. It's a truly violent chemical reaction.
So if you see those early signs, any swelling, or especially that smoke or smell, what's the absolute immediate action a pilot or operator should take? Seconds must count here.
Seconds absolutely do count. The golden rule is non-negotiable. If stage 1 swelling or stage 2 gas venting is recognized, immediate decisive action is crucial to prevent escalation to a full-blown fire. Your key steps are, first, and this is paramount, disconnect power immediately.
You cut the power.
Yes. Unplug the battery from the charger, from the drone, whatever it's connected to. Stop any energy flow contributing to the runaway. Second, move the battery to a safe, ventilated location. Ideally, get the battery outdoors, well away from any flammable materials, into a clear open space like concrete or bare earth.
Get it outside, away from stuff.
Exactly. Even better, if safely possible, place it on a non-combustible surface. Third, and this is your containment strategy, place it in LiPo-safe containment. Use a fireproof bag, bury it in sand, or place it in a sturdy metal container like a steel bucket. The goal is to isolate and contain the battery, preventing the fire from spreading.
Contain it, okay.
And finally, notify your team and document the incident. Inform anyone nearby of the hazard and begin documenting the details for post-incident inspection and official reporting. Speed and calm execution are essential here.
So, if despite all those precautions, it does go to a full-on fire, what's the right way to put it out? Because I've heard some truly conflicting advice, especially that regular water can actually make a LiPo fire worse. Is that a dangerous misconception you see often?
That's a dangerous misconception that we see far too often, and you are absolutely right to highlight it. Our sources are incredibly clear based on extensive fire science. Water or CO2 alone are insufficient. Because LiPo fires produce their own oxygen, and water can react with ignited lithium, potentially making the fire worse, creating hydrogen gas, or even spreading the burning molten lithium.
So water is actually bad.
Pouring water directly on an active LiPo fire can indeed intensify it or cause dangerous sputtering and spreading. It's not the recommended first response. For effective fire suppression, the unequivocal recommendation is a Class D fire extinguisher.
Class D.
These are specifically designed for combustible metal fires and are the most effective agents for extinguishing lithium fires. If a Class D extinguisher isn't immediately available, alternative smothering agents like a large bucket of sand, dirt, or even a specialized fire blanket are far more effective than water or a standard CO2 extinguisher.
Sand or dirt, smothering it.
Exactly. The primary goal is not necessarily to extinguish the chemical reaction with water, but rather to smother the fire and allow the battery to burn itself out in a controlled and contained environment. The key message here is simple but vital. Never pick up a burning battery.
Right. Don't touch it.
If you're indoors and a battery ignites, your first priority is to evacuate the immediate area. If the battery is safely contained and isolated, allow it to burn out while maintaining a safe distance and continuously monitoring it to ensure the fire doesn't spread. For any professional operator, preparedness is not merely a suggestion, it's a fundamental expectation. You are absolutely expected to have fireproof LiPo bags, suitable fire extinguishers, either a Class D, or at least a readily accessible bucket of sand, and established safe storage protocols on site.
Got it. Be prepared.
And beyond the immediate safety, it's important to know that serious battery fires are reportable events under Transport Canada's CARS 901.73. So meticulous documentation of the incident is also a crucial part of the post-incident response. This isn't just about putting out a fire, it's about learning from it and preventing future occurrences.
While battery safety, charging, and emergency response are absolutely paramount, what happens if, despite all best practices, something still goes wrong in the air? This is where redundancy comes in, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's far more sophisticated than just having like a spare tire on your car.
Precisely. If we truly connect this to the bigger picture of drone safety and professional operations, redundancy in drones is vastly more sophisticated than just a simple backup. It's a holistic, almost philosophical approach to system-level resilience. Our historical deep dive reminds us that even the earliest flight pioneers knew it's not enough to just fly. You need a way to stay safe when something goes wrong. They're referring to the revolutionary 1903 Wright Flyer, which, despite having a single, somewhat unreliable engine, famously featured independent systems for pitch, roll, and yaw control.
Ah, interesting. Even back then.
Exactly, but this early example already demonstrated that redundancy is about control, not just keeping the motor running. It's about maintaining command and stability, even when a critical component fails. So what is redundancy in a drone? At its core, it's about having backup systems or multiple independent components for critical functions so that the failure of one part does not lead to a complete system failure or, worse, an uncontrolled crash. This encompasses not just power, but also communication, control, navigation, and even software logic.
Okay, so it covers everything critical. Why is it so crucial, especially now?
Well, for modern drones, especially those performing high-risk operations flying over people in complex urban environments or beyond visual line of sight, BVLOS, an uncontrolled crash poses truly significant risks. Risks to human life, property, and public trust. Regulators, particularly Transport Canada, explicitly emphasize that a drone without adequate, demonstrable redundancy is often simply not considered fit for safe flight for these advanced operations. It's becoming a pass-fail criterion.
That immediately makes perfect sense. So if it's such a holistic approach, what are the different layers or types of redundancy we should be looking for in a professional drone system?
There are indeed several crucial types of redundancy, each acting as a vital layer of protection. Let's start with power system redundancy, PSR, which you can think of as your drone's ETOPS margin.
ETOPS, like the aviation term.
Exactly like the aviation term. ETOPS originates from commercial aviation, where extended-range twin-engine operational performance standards dictate that aircraft can fly long distances over water based on their proven ability to operate safely if one engine goes down. For drones, it's a direct application. Can the drone continue to operate or land safely and predictably if a power component, be it a battery, an ESC, or even a motor, fails?
Okay, so can it fly if something in the power system fails? How is that achieved?
Common methods for achieving robust PSR include multiple batteries. Drones like the DJI M200 and 300 series, for example, famously utilize dual batteries. But here's the crucial nuance. These batteries must be wired in parallel with independent feeds to critical components.
Independent feeds. That's the key part.
Absolutely. Simply having two batteries isn't enough if they share a single point of failure upstream, like a single power distribution board. If they're wired in series, or if a single common connector fails, one battery failing can still take down the entire system. True redundancy demands independent pathways. Another method is through robust power distribution boards themselves. These are specifically designed to independently feed different circuits within the drone, preventing a single short circuit or component failure from cascading.
Right.
And for multi-rotor drones with more than 4 motors, there's ESC, electronic speed controller, redundancy. Hexcopters, 6 motors, and octocopters, 8 motors, can often compensate for the complete failure of one ESC or motor, allowing for continued controlled flight and a safe landing.
Whereas a quadcopter usually can't.
Generally cannot sustain flight with a motor failure. That's a key difference. Finally, dual power feeds to essential mission-critical components like the flight controller, GPS module, or navigation system, provide another vital layer of protection. Many drone crashes, as our sources indicate, are directly linked to operators not fully understanding or rigorously testing their power system redundancy, often due to issues like aged or unbalanced batteries or improperly configured failsafes.
So power is one layer. What else needs redundancy?
Beyond power, we also have control system redundancy, just like the Wright Flyer. This refers to independent control mechanisms for different axes of flight, ensuring stability if one sensor pathway fails. Then there's communications redundancy, which involves backup plans for telemetry link failure, perhaps a secondary radio link, cellular, or even satellite comms in advanced systems.
Keeping control.
Exactly. Similarly, navigation redundancy involves solutions for GPS signal loss, maybe using visual positioning, RTK, or inertial systems to prevent a flyaway. And finally, software redundancy manifests through intelligent fail-safe modes. Automatic return to home, RTH, or controlled land-in-place functions are common examples, often triggered by power issues like low voltage.
But you've got to set those up right.
Critically important. Operators must configure these appropriately for the specific mission and environment. If the RTH path is unsafe, perhaps over traffic or trees, a controlled land-in-place is often the far safer option. This requires pre-mission planning and judgment.
So we've covered these different critical types of redundancy, but it seemed like there might be some really common and potentially dangerous misunderstandings about what redundant truly means for a drone, especially among less experienced operators. What are some of those pitfalls?
You're absolutely right. These misconceptions can be incredibly dangerous. One very common one is, my drone has 2 batteries, so it's fully redundant.
Yeah, I can see people thinking that.
It's unequivocally false, as we discussed. If those batteries are wired in series or converge at a single point of failure, then one battery failing can still mean total system loss. True power redundancy demands independent pathways. Another pervasive misconception is redundancy is only for BVLOS flights.
Right. Only for the really complex stuff.
While it is absolutely critical for beyond visual line-of-sight operations, redundancy is a profoundly smart investment for any high-risk or high-value mission, even within visual line-of-sight, VLOS, especially when operating near people, sensitive infrastructure, or over-valuable property. Our compiled materials highlight even Hollywood productions now routinely require documented triple redundancy for drones flying over actors or sets. Safety is paramount.
Makes sense. What else?
Then there's the belief that fail-safe always means return to home, RTH. This is not universally true, and it can be a dangerous assumption. As we emphasized, RPH isn't always safest. If there's insufficient power or the path is obstructed, a controlled land-in place is often the preferred, more responsible choice. The pilot needs to make that call beforehand. And finally, a very common one. More motors automatically means more redundancy. While it's true that octocopters can often fly with 2 motor failures and hexacopters with 1, the overall power architecture independent feeds, ESC design, flight controller SPFs, still dictates true redundancy.
So more motors don't automatically fix everything.
Exactly. More motors don't magically negate single points of failure elsewhere. And to be clear, a quadcopter generally cannot sustain safe controlled flight with a single motor failure. That's why they're often restricted from operations over people. This brings us squarely to the crucial concept of a single point of failure, SPF.
The weakest link.
Precisely. An SPF is simply any component within a system whose failure immediately leads to total system loss or a catastrophic event. Operators must actively identify and proactively mitigate these SPF in their drone systems. Strategies include designing with independent power feeds, implementing load balancing, robust component selection. It's about finding and eliminating those weak links. Remember the historical missing battery myth in some early DJI drones, where earlier firmware allowed takeoff with only 1 of 2 batteries installed, leading to crashes if operators didn't do thorough manual checks.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark reminder that even automated safety systems can have SPFs if you become complacent or don't understand the underlying architecture.
This systems thinking approach, really understanding the entire drone as an interconnected system, sounds like it's what regulators are really trying to instill, not just, rote memorization of rules.
Exactly. This shift in mindset is profound, and it raises an absolutely vital question for anyone in this space. How precisely do these complex expectations around battery safety and redundancy translate into formal regulatory compliance, especially here in Canada?
This is where it gets really interesting for anyone serious about operating drones professionally. It genuinely feels like Transport Canada has significantly upped their game on both battery safety and system redundancy over the last few years. What's the full story behind that evolution?
The evolution has been quite remarkable, truly moving from what many in the industry describe as the Wild West era to a much more structured and comprehensive framework. Prior to 2019, there were essentially no formal regulations specifically for RPAS battery management in Canada. Operators were largely left relying on manufacturers' recommendations and very general aviation principles.
So kind of informal.
Very informal. This unfortunately led to wide inconsistency in knowledge and practices, and regrettably, many battery fires were a common, often unreported cause of serious incidents. Then came June 1st, 2019, with the implementation of CARS Part 9, SR 2019-11. This marked the first formal legal framework for RPAS in Canada. Now, while the regulations didn't directly include explicit battery handling procedures in black and white, batteries became implicitly covered under broader general airworthiness requirements. For example, CARS 901.33, pertaining to maintenance, clearly required RPAS to be maintained in a safe operating condition.
Well,
This implicitly included the battery system. Failure to follow manufacturer instructions on battery care could now be considered a direct violation.
okay, so the responsibility was there, just not spelled out step by step.
Exactly. Furthermore, SICAR's 901.34, addressing pre-flight checks, mandated that pilots check all components, including batteries, for suitability for safe operation, checking shock, damage, swelling. So while not prescriptive on how to charge, it laid the groundwork for accountability.
So the regulations covered batteries indirectly, but it sounds like the explicit focus really started to sharpen a couple of years later. When did that shift happen?
That's right. The explicit focus truly began to shift from 2021 through 2023. During this period, Transport Canada significantly increased its oversight, particularly for advanced drone operations. This led directly to a crucial update of TP 15263, the knowledge requirements for RPAS pilots.
TP 15263. The exam guy.
Precisely. This update was transformative because it explicitly included detailed sections on battery management. This meant battery handling and safety became exam relevant, a core component of the professional pilot exam and an expected competency for any professional operator. We've seen auditors, during operational inspections, begin rigorously asking for documented battery handling standard operating procedures, SOPs, and tangible proof of pilot training.
So they started asking for the paperwork.
Exactly. This effectively formalized battery safety expectations, bringing them firmly into alignment with international best practices. Looking ahead to 2024, 2025, and beyond, while we haven't seen new CARS changes specifically focused on batteries yet, there's a clear and growing emphasis. We're seeing increased scrutiny on fire safety protocols, strict adherence to dangerous goods compliance, and crucially, the full integration of robust battery management into safety management systems, SMS, for larger operators.
SMS integration, okay.
And a critical upcoming change, anticipated with SOR 2025-70, will place significantly increased emphasis on documenting system redundancies for advanced operations and Special Flight Operations Certificate, SFOC, applications. This isn't just a suggestion, it's rapidly becoming a pass-fail criterion for SFOC approval.
Wow, pass-fail. That's serious.
It is. Operational risk assessments for these higher-risk flights must explicitly consider, detail, and document power source redundancy and comprehensive failure mitigation strategies. Future trends, perhaps around 2026-2028, suggest we might see formal, prescriptive battery SOP requirements embedded directly into CARS, along with potential mandates for specific certification of battery systems like UL 2054 or IEC 62133. These certifications involve rigorous testing, adding another layer of safety. We also expect stronger SMS enforcement and the increasing use of data-driven battery retirement practices.
That's a significant amount of regulatory weight. For someone either preparing for their exam or just trying to operate safely, what are the key CARS sections listeners should really internalize?
Excellent question. These bridge theory and practical compliance. Here are the key CARS sections. CARS 901.23, fitness for flight. This is foundational. An RPAS is not legally fit for flight if its battery is unsafe, swollen, damaged, etc. Flying with an unairworthy battery is illegal. Simple as that.
Got it. Fitness for flight.
CARS 901.27, maintenance. Batteries are clearly equipment, must be inspected, maintained, proactively replaced, and logged. This mandates a documented battery management system.
Maintenance and logging.
CARS 901.31, operations near people, and 901.33, mitigating hazards. These imply that high-risk LiPos demand all reasonable precautions: fireproof bags, transport protocols, inspections. For operations over people, CAR 901.41, robust power system redundancy is often a de facto requirement because an uncontrolled crash is unacceptable.
Especially near people. Redundancy becomes almost mandatory.
Pretty much. CARS 901.69, emergency procedures, requires a documented plan for emergencies, explicitly including battery fires, thermal runaway, implies having suppression gear ready. CARS 901.73, incident reporting, mandatory reporting of serious battery fires and other incidents, helps everyone learn.
Reporting incidents. Okay.
SFOC documentation, CRR 903.02. For advanced ops needing an SFOC, Transport Canada expects detailed documentation of power system redundancies and failure mitigation strategies. It's proof of a professional approach.
And beyond just the operational rules, what about transporting these batteries, especially by air? You mentioned dangerous goods regulations. Sounds like something people could easily overlook.
You're absolutely hitting on a blind spot for many. This is where the dangerous goods regulations, DGR, come in, and they are critical knowledge. LiPo batteries are unequivocally classified as Class 9 dangerous goods.
Class 9.
Yes. Air transport is strictly controlled due to serious past incidents like the 2010 UPS cargo plane crash caused by a lithium battery fire. The implications are severe, and many RPAS operators only learn these rules when their batteries get confiscated at the airport.
Ouch. So what are the key rules?
The key rules for air transport under DGR are: always transport LiPo batteries in your carry-on luggage, never checked baggage. Allows crews to respond if something happens.
Carry on only. Got it.
Terminal protection is mandatory. Terminals must be protected to prevent short circuits. Tape them, put them in individual non-conductive bags, or keep them in original packaging.
Protect the terminals.
Strict watt-hour WH limits. Generally, 100 WH or less per battery is okay without airline approval. Between 100 WH and 160 WH, you need airline approval, often with limits on the number you can carry.
Okay, check the watt hours.
Batteries 160 WH or more are generally prohibited on passenger aircraft without special cargo arrangements. And critically, no damaged or swollen LiPos are ever allowed in transport, regardless of their watt-hour rating. Unacceptable risk.
No damaged batteries on planes. Period.
Non-compliance can lead to severe fines, delays, confiscation, and poses a significant safety risk. Always check specific airline policies, too.
So after this truly comprehensive deep dive, whether you're preparing for that advanced exam or just trying to operate safely, what's the ultimate overarching takeaway for this entire complex picture of batteries and redundancy? What's the one thing we should engrave into our minds?
The Transport Canada exam, and indeed real-world professional operations, demand more than just technical knowledge. They demand a deeply ingrained systems thinking mindset. Our compiled materials consistently advise viewing yourself not just as a pilot, but as an aircraft systems engineer.
Systems engineer, okay.
They want to see proactive management, sound judgment, and meticulous risk mitigation woven into every aspect of your operation. So the ultimate mental mantra that will serve you well, that you should ask yourself without fail before every advanced flight, is this: if I lose any one component, battery, motor, ESC, or power feed, can I still land safely and predictably?
If I lose any one component, can I still land safely? That's powerful.
It is. This mantra matters for so many reasons. First, it directly ensures safety by forcing proactive assessment against potential failures, prioritizing life and property. Second, it leads to truly informed decision-making. If the honest answer is no, it prompts you to adjust the drone, fail-safes, or mission plan before takeoff.
Right, fix it before you fly.
Yeah. Exactly. Third, it directly aligns with regulatory compliance, fitness for flight, CRSR's 901.23, and SFOC requirements. And finally, for exam preparation, Transport Canada's Advanced RPAS exam frequently features complex scenario-based questions designed to test this exact judgment. It's about building resilience, not just reacting to failure. Hashtag outro.
Phew, we have truly taken a profound deep dive today, haven't we? From the microscopic volatile chemistry inside a drone battery to the overarching evolving regulatory frameworks designed to keep our skies and communities safe. We've journeyed through everything from charging batteries in that crucial Goldilocks zone to understanding precisely why your hexacopter might survive a motor failure while your quad almost certainly won't. And perhaps most importantly, we've learned that a puffy battery is not just a little swollen, it's a blaring, urgent call to action.
Indeed. The collective insights gleaned from this stack of sources underscore a fundamental truth. Being a professional RPAS operator isn't simply about being skilled at piloting. It's about being a diligent battery manager, a meticulous systems engineer, and above all, a proactive safety advocate. It's about truly knowing those crucial details, like why you should never, ever charge a cold battery to avoid that insidious lithium plating, or why pouring regular water is the absolute worst thing you could do for a LiPo fire. These are the details that separate the hobbyist from the professional.
Ultimately, what truly stands out to me from this entire discussion is that powerful core mantra. If I lose any one component, battery, motor, ASC, or power feed, can I still land safely and predictably? That single question forces a complete and necessary shift in how you approach every single flight. For you, the curious learner, whether you're taking that exam or just want to operate with utmost confidence, I sincerely hope this deep dive has given you a robust and actionable foundation. Understanding the vital importance of battery safety and system redundancy in the incredibly exciting and rapidly evolving world of drones.
And as a final thought for you to mull over, how might applying this systems thinking approach, this deep dive into understanding and mitigating single points of failure, How might that enhance safety and predictability in other critical areas of your life or work beyond just drones? Perhaps in your business processes, your daily routines, or even your personal projects. That's the enduring power of the deep dive.
Think about it. That's all for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and fly safe.
That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.